You've lived alone long enough, Morgan. It's Brooke's turn now. That was how my mother gifted my apartment to my sister. Over dinner. The roast chicken hadn't even been carved. Claire's words fell onto the linen tablecloth like broken glass, sharp and final. I blinked once, then twice, thinking maybe I had misheard through the hum of jazz and the clink of silverware. But no. She smiled softly, took a sip of her Merlot, and looked at Brooke as if I were already gone. I hadn't seen that look since the day Brooke got her college acceptance letter, and I got nothing but a pat on the back for staying practical. "Excuse me?" I said, trying to keep my voice flat. I glanced at my father, but Patrick was too engrossed in his Cabernet to meet my eyes. He just adjusted his glasses and reached for the salt. Brooke beamed. She rested a manicured hand on her baby bump and said, "It'll be so much better for the baby, Morgan. You know that building's in a quiet district. Perfect for us." United States, meaning her and Ethan. Ethan, who sat beside her in his usual slim-fit suit and half-smirk, unfolded his napkin deliberately. "We thought it would be more efficient if she moved in before the end of the month. You did sign the paperwork last week." My mouth went dry. "Paperwork?" I echoed. My brain scrambled through the week before. Meetings, late nights, invoices. Claire had dropped by my office, asked for my signature on what she said was a bank verification form for insurance purposes. I had trusted her. Of course I had. "You mean the refinancing document?" Claire tilted her head, that gentle look now sharpened into pity. "We streamlined it, sweetheart. Brooke and Ethan will take over the space. It just made sense." "It made sense to lie?" I didn't raise my voice. I didn't have to. It sliced just fine, low and steady. "You're not being fair," Claire said, placing her fork down. "You're single. You work all the time. Brooke is starting a family. That apartment was always meant to be temporary. It's not like you'll be homeless." Brooke giggled into her wine. "Besides, you always say you're married to your job. This way, you won't have to deal with all the maintenance. Ethan can handle it." I looked at Ethan. He looked smug. I looked at Patrick. He finally glanced at me and said, "Let's not make a scene." "It's just housing. You'll bounce back." Bounce back. I marinated that chicken for 3 days. I drove across town for Claire's favorite brand of balsamic. I rearranged my schedule just to be here tonight. I was invisible. Number I was useful. And now, apparently, I was expendable. I put down my glass, my pulse thudding steadily against the ceramic. "Where are my things?" Claire smiled. "We'll box them tomorrow. Don't worry, we'll label everything. You can come by on Sunday to collect what you need." It was too neat, too rehearsed. They weren't just doing this. They had done this already. My apartment wasn't just taken. It had been processed, divided, reassigned like surplus. I felt the handle of my fork in my palm. I could throw it, break the illusion, scream, demand, cry. But I didn't. I just looked down at my plate. The rosemary chicken was perfectly golden. This too I had made, and they had eaten it without hesitation. Brooke dabbed the corner of her mouth with her napkin. We were thinking of painting the second bedroom. Maybe a sage green. Ethan nodded. Neutral tones. Good resale value. Claire smiled like she was hosting a bridal shower, not a coup. I stood up slowly. "I'll head home." Claire didn't miss a beat. She just looked up at me almost serenely and said, "It's not really your home anymore." They think I signed over my apartment, but I never sign anything without backup scans. The overhead light buzzed softly in my office. Sunday nights were usually silent. No phones ringing, no drills whirring, just me and the hum of the building. Tonight, though, my hands trembled slightly as I flipped open my laptop and connected the hard drive I kept in a fireproof drawer. Folder. Personal, greater than legal, greater than seened docs. I scrolled back to the file I remembered signing, dated November 10th, labeled Bank Verification, Claire. My eyes skimmed the scanned PDF. It looked legitimate, but something snagged. I opened the metadata. Document title. Property transfer. Private. I stared. My stomach twisted. Claire had renamed the document after I signed it. The signature block was mine. But the document I thought I signed wasn't the one they filed. I leaned back in my chair, pressing a fist to my chest as if that would slow the rise of heat behind my ribs. She'd planned this. Not in passing, not in frustration. This was precise. And I had walked into it, smiling, thinking I was helping with insurance paperwork. No, not this time. I clicked open my encrypted messaging app and called Lisa. She answered before the second ring. "I've been expecting you," she said dryly. I exhaled. "Tell me they can't get away with this." "Did you sign anything that explicitly transferred property rights?" Number it was labeled as a bank request. "Good. And do you have the original scan?" "I do." Lisa made a thoughtful sound. "Then Claire's transfer won't hold, even if they filed it. It's unenforceable without a notarized transfer intent. But this wasn't a mistake, Morgan. It was a trap. They were hoping you'd react emotionally." "Why?" "To paint you unstable. Emotional instability disqualifies you from contesting property under stress-related clauses, especially if Ethan's involved." I bit the inside of my cheek. He said I signed it, in front of the whole table. Of course he did. That's the script, but we'll undo it. I'll initiate a formal hold on any filings in court Monday morning. There was a pause. Then she asked, "Do you want backup at the property?" I didn't respond right away. Lisa filled the silence. "I still have Vince on contract. He owes you, remember? From that foundation fraud case last year." I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. "Have him check on the apartment. Tonight, if possible." "I'll ping him." I ended the call and stared out the window. Across the street, the office buildings had already gone dark. The city felt asleep, except for me, wide awake, betrayed, but calculating. Camille, my neighbor from the floor above, knocked gently on the glass of my office door, holding a tin of cookies. "Hey," she said kindly. "Saw the lights on. Thought you could use something sweet." I managed to smile. "Thanks, Camille. You okay?" "Just reorganizing my life." She didn't press. She never did. When she left, I placed the tin on the desk unopened and returned to my computer. I pulled out old receipts. $2,500 for roof work, $4,100 for kitchen tile, $6,000 in HVAC upgrades, all paid in full. All from my account. I opened a spreadsheet and titled it, "Property Contributions, Morgan Only." Line by line, I entered every dollar, every hour, every design sketch. For the first time, I didn't feel like I was preserving history. I felt like I was building ammunition. The cursor blinked at me in silence. Finally, I reached for my phone and dialed Claire. She answered on the second ring. "Morgan?" I didn't waste time. "Did you mean for me to find out this way?" A pause. Then her voice. "You never noticed anything anyway." Click. That was it. No guilt. No hesitation, just a cold statement of fact. I sat still for a moment, the silence stretching so taut it felt like it could snap. My phone buzzed. "Lisa, your door code's been used. Vince is inside. You need to see this." "You're earlier than expected," the man in my living room said, "but right on time." I paused in the doorway. My hand tightened on the keys. The kitchen lamp was on, casting soft shadows on the hardwood floor. And in the center of my living room sat a man I hadn't seen in over a year. Calm, composed, legs crossed, a stack of folders neatly arranged on the coffee table in front of him. "Vince," I said, surprised by the steadiness of my voice. He stood and extended his hand like we were meeting at a business conference. "Good to see you, Morgan." I stepped inside, closed the door behind me, and took in the details. Nothing was out of place. No drawers rifled, no smashed photos. Just Vince, ex-military posture, sleeves rolled up and a tablet blinking gently beside him. Lisa hadn't exaggerated. He was always surgical. "I got in 10 minutes ago," he said, sitting again. "Used the guest code you sent to Lisa last year. Still active." "I never had a reason to change it," I said, slowly taking the armchair opposite him. "Until now." He nodded. "It's a nice place. Shame they tried to steal it." He slid a folder across to me. Inside were high-resolution photos, clear images of Ethan crouched near my filing cabinet. The timestamp read, Sunday, 11:42 p.m. "He picked the lock," Vince said. "Badly. Didn't get in." My pulse ticked upward. "He was here last night?" "Yes. I installed motion sensors an hour later. He's been circling." I looked at the photo again. Ethan's expression was hard to read. Focused, arrogant, like he'd done this before. "There's more," Vince said. He tapped the tablet and pressed play. It was audio. Ethan's voice first. "Just get her to react. Cry, yell, anything. We'll document it. Then we claim she's unstable." Claire's voice responded, cold and composed. "She always breaks down under pressure. She won't make it through a hearing." I exhaled slowly through my nose. The heat wasn't rage. It was precision. What they planned wasn't just theft. It was assassination of character. A clean legal ambush. Remove me emotionally, then remove me legally. "They think you're still 5 moves behind," Vince said, watching me. "They always have," I replied. My phone buzzed. "Lisa." I answered without looking. "I got the footage." "And the good news," Lisa said, "is the papers Ethan filed are incomplete. No court would rule on it before Thanksgiving. You have time." "To do what?" I asked, already knowing. "To build your own case, quietly." Vince raised an eyebrow and mouthed, "Dinner?" I smirked. "Yeah, that." Lisa continued, "Claire and Ethan are working on perception." "We'll beat them with fact. Keep everything tight." "I will," I said, ending the call. Vince leaned back. "So, what's your next move?" I didn't answer right away. I stared at the wall behind him. The gallery of frames I'd hung myself, one crooked on purpose to annoy Brooke. The custom sconce Claire said looked too industrial. The small engraved hook near the door where I always hung my old tool belt. This wasn't just property. It was mine. I looked at Vince. "Then let's invite them over for dinner." His eyes gleamed. "Saturday, 6 p.m. I'll have the cameras ready. Let's give them a show." "You made dinner?" Claire asked, eyebrows lifted. "Of course." I smiled. This night's meant to be unforgettable. She stepped into my apartment like she still owned it, her heels clicking on the hardwood floors I had paid to refinish. Brooke followed behind her, cradling her stomach like a prop, and Ethan brought up the rear, carrying a smug little smirk beneath his tailored coat. Patrick came last, a bottle of wine in hand, half curious, half distracted, as always. The dining table was set perfectly. Linen napkins, my mother's favorite silver, low candles flickering. Vince, in a crisp shirt and apron, stood behind the island, carving roast lamb with the precision of a Michelin chef. No one questioned his presence. Just another helping hand, they assumed. "I hope you didn't overexert yourself," Claire said as she slipped off her coat and handed it to me like I was the help. "I paced myself," I replied. "Wouldn't want to seem unstable." Brooke settled onto the cushioned chair I had reupholstered myself 3 summers ago. "This place looks even better than I remember. Ethan was thinking of knocking out that wall for more space." I poured water into her glass, letting a small pause linger. "That wall holds the primary support beam," I said, "but I'm sure he'll figure it out." Ethan's jaw twitched. We were only discussing possibilities. Patrick cleared his throat. "Let's just eat. I had a long day." "Of course," I said. "Let's begin." The meal unfolded like a script. Claire complimenting the lamb with feigned grace, Brooke cooing about the lighting, Ethan subtly testing the ground. "You've done well for yourself," he said after his second glass of wine. "Contracting must be booming." I nodded. "It keeps me busy. Mostly repairs these days. Things people break without realizing their worth." He gave me a tight smile, clearly unsure whether to take it as metaphor or jab. Claire leaned in. "Have you thought about what's next, Morgan? Long term? It might be time to simplify. Let go of the burden of ownership." My smile didn't flinch. Ownership isn't a burden when you've built something yourself? Brooke snorted softly. "Still, you don't need all this space, right?" Ethan added. "We've already got some design concepts if you'd like to see—" "Actually," I interrupted gently, "I was hoping you'd see something." I stood and walked toward the cabinet. From it, I pulled a small remote and clicked the projector screen that slid soundlessly down from the ceiling. 6 pairs of eyes blinked in confusion as the screen lit up. I tapped the tablet Vince had preloaded. "Before dessert," I said, "let's revisit Tuesday morning." Audio began playing, Ethan's voice, crisp and unmistakable. "Just get her to react. Cry, yell, anything. We'll document it. Then we claim she's unstable." Claire's voice followed. "She always breaks down under pressure. She won't make it through a hearing." The room turned to ice. Brooke stared straight ahead. Ethan shifted in his seat, then reached for his phone. Vince moved subtly from the kitchen, now standing at a better angle. Patrick looked between them, stunned. "What the hell is this?" I kept my voice even. "That was recorded 2 days after I signed the falsified document. The same one filed without my knowledge." Claire tried to laugh. "Morgan, really, this is inappropriate." "Is it?" I turned to her. "Because what's really inappropriate is manipulating a family member into legal ruin, Claire." Ethan stood. "You're recording this?" Vince stepped forward, his voice calm. "Multiple cameras. Audio synced. Everything admissible." Ethan froze. Claire's wine glass trembled as she set it down. "I have copies," I said. "And backups." Brooke opened her mouth, closed it, then tried again. "We didn't mean it like that. This is only the appetizer. You wanted my apartment? My trust? My silence? Let's tally the cost." I didn't need to raise my voice. The numbers did that for me. On the screen behind me, the first slide blinked to life. Renovation ledger, 2021 to present, clean font, highlighted totals, receipts linked by QR code. Vince had organized them with the same precision he applied to clearing rooms. Brooke stared at the screen like it might explode. $82,700 in structural renovations, I said evenly. All from my account. No reimbursement, no shared expense. I paid for the roof, the plumbing, the insulation. Ethan scoffed. "That proves nothing. You could have been investing in a property you expected to inherit." I didn't take the bait. $11,000 in maintenance, furnace, pest control, foundation stabilization. I handled every emergency while you all vacationed in Turks and Caicos. Claire crossed her arms. "No one asked you to spend that money." "No," I replied. "You just enjoyed the benefits. Remember when the ceiling collapsed in Brooke's old nursery? I had a team in the next morning. You brought wine." Brooke shifted, clearly uncomfortable. The next slide appeared. Utilities, Claire's use. It listed bills paid under my name. I let it sit. No need to narrate. Then, unauthorized filing activity, document audit. Vince clicked to play a screen recording of metadata logs, Claire's computer IP address, timestamp changes to the PDF. Title field, edited from verification to property transfer, private. Claire looked away. "You altered a document after I signed it," I said quietly. "That's called misrepresentation." Ethan stood again. "This is a domestic matter, not a legal one." Lisa's voice cut in from the video call screen Vince had placed beside the fireplace. "Actually, it's both." Ethan froze. Claire looked like someone had unplugged her thoughts. Even if Morgan were never to press charges, Lisa said calmly, a court would find sufficient cause for civil fraud, contract tampering, and slander if she chose to proceed. There's precedence. Claire recovered enough to ask, who is this woman? Lisa Crossman, my attorney. Lisa smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Hi, Claire. Big fan of your creative filings. Patrick finally spoke. You involved a lawyer? I had to, I said, turning to him, because no one here respected my voice without one. I moved toward the center of the room and placed a thick envelope on the coffee table. This is an acknowledgement of wrongdoing. It states that the apartment remains legally mine, that all attempts to transfer it were made without informed consent, and that no further claims will be made. Claire's lip curled. You expect us to sign that? I expect nothing, I said. But if it's not signed by midnight, this packet goes to the clerk's office on Monday morning. Ethan opened his mouth again. Lisa beat him to it. Your best option is to say thank you, she said, for not filing criminal charges. Brooke looked pale. I didn't even know what was happening. I stared at her. You lived in that nursery for 16 years, and now you want to inherit the house and the apartment without asking where either came from? She looked down at her lap. Patrick rubbed his temples. Claire, how long have you been planning this? Claire didn't blink. You were never paying attention. I didn't throw them out. I simply restored the lock. The new bolts slid into place with a crisp click. Vince had installed them himself. Grade A security, industrial-grade steel. There were now 4 keys in existence. 1 with Lisa, 1 in my safe, and 2 in my coat pocket. I stood in the entryway and exhaled. The quiet was no longer hollow. The last of Brooke's boxes had been shipped out that morning. Vince had personally ensured they made it onto the courier truck. Every scented candle, prenatal yoga book, and handwritten list of paint color options for my walls. I kept none of it. Not even the apology card. The apartment smelled like lemon oil and burnt sugar. The way I liked it. No more lavender diffusers or Claire's imported soy candles. Just wood polish, sawdust from the workbench, and real air. I laid out my tools. Organized, sharpened, oiled. For the first time in weeks, they felt like mine again. Then the doorbell rang. Patrick stood outside, clutching a manila envelope. His tie was slightly askew, like he'd pulled it off in the car and put it back on out of obligation. I won't stay, he said. You never do, I replied, but I stepped aside. He looked around, visibly smaller in the space than he used to be. Your mother's not well. She's not used to consequences, I said, voice steady. He placed the envelope on the table. That's the updated will. I've given my share to you. No strings, not because you want it, because you earned it. I nodded. I didn't thank him. He seemed to appreciate that more. As he reached the door, he hesitated. I let too much slide. I assumed too much would fix itself. I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. He left without looking back. My phone buzzed. Brooke. I'm sorry for everything. I really didn't know. I hope one day we can talk. I let the message sit. I didn't delete it. But I didn't respond either. A few minutes later, another one arrived. From an unknown number. Claire. You'll regret this. I did delete that one. Lisa called in the afternoon. All filings have been withdrawn. The apartment is clean, legally and otherwise. Thank you, I said. You did most of it. No, I said, walking to the window. I just finally stopped apologizing. Sometimes that's enough, she replied. The lake shimmered in the distance, framed by frost. Below, the street buzzed faintly, life continuing, uncaring. That night, I lit a single candle in the center of the room. No ceremony, just a quiet moment. Then I unrolled the blueprints I'd been sketching since Tuesday. A new design. Not a renovation, not a salvage job. A foundation. Deeper, sharper, stronger. This wouldn't be a project for someone else. Not a gift, not a favor. This was for me. I adjusted the lines, annotated a new angle for structural weight. The dimensions weren't for square footage. They were for space, for freedom. She whispers to herself, "They took my home." So I built something stronger. Then clicks submit on a building permit for a new foundation, under her name only. She didn't scream, didn't break things, didn't beg. She simply gathered every receipt, every lie they told, and laid them bare under the same roof they once called hers. When injustice is met with unwavering strategy, even silence becomes a weapon. Sometimes rebuilding isn't revenge. It's justice by design. Like, share, and comment if this story struck a chord. Drop a 1 if you've ever felt this kind of betrayal.